Hello everyone, Silent here, and welcome back to another episode of Bug Rock of the Week. Today we're going to be exploring the newest 1.17 betas. There have been a lot of bug fixes, mechanic changes, new feature implementations, and all kinds of various changes in the recent Bedrock betas that I think you'll be interested in knowing about. So let's go ahead and explore these betas. Just a little PSA at the beginning of this episode, everything I show in today's video will be releasing in a new 1.17 update here shortly. I assume we're gonna get another update within the next month or two with all of these lovely changes and bug fixes. Anything that I mention is for experimental mode will be included in the 1.18 update. Today's first beta is 1.17.30.20. It's a couple weeks old at this point, but it does have some very interesting changes in it. First of all, there's an important and useful bug fix in this beta. When you're flying and then you decide to eat a chorus fruit, you will no longer instantly die. In previous updates, it would just instantly kill you from fall damage. It would think that you basically fell out of the air and hit the ground. But now, as you can see, you can eat chorus fruit while flying with your elytra, even if you're going straight for the ground, and you won't take any fall damage or damage at all. Really convenient and could save you in a couple different situations. If you're someone who has a Silk Touch on their axe and you harvest pumpkins a lot to trade with villagers, you may have noticed that sometimes your villagers just do not accept your pumpkins. So now pumpkins in any orientation can be harvested with Silk Touch and they will be accepted by farmer villagers. So you'll no longer end up with pumpkins that just can't be traded for some reason. And this is a bug that I know has been bothering many of you, and you'll no longer need to worry about it as of the next update. There's also been a small bug fix to candles, so now if you have a candle floating mid-air, you can no longer add more candles to it. I'm right-clicking furiously, and I simply cannot place more. Of course, you can still light the candles and unlight them, but they have to actually be supported by a block in order for you to add more candles to them. This bug fix seems a little bit silly, seeing as how you still can't place candles on like upper slabs, for example, and a variety of other blocks, but it is what it is. So if you want multiple bunches of candles, you need to place them all first and then remove the block below them. If you're someone who plays in creative a lot, then you might be happy to hear there have been a bunch of updates to light blocks. You can see all the changes on screen right now, but to give you a little bit of a crash course, when you place these things down, they're now going to be visible when you're holding another light block similar to that of a barrier block. Now these things are different from barrier blocks in the way that you cannot break them or interact with them in any way unless you're holding another light block. So as you can see, we're holding a light block, we can see this one on the ground, we can see the hitbox around it, and we can break it as well. Now the cool thing about light blocks is when you're actually looking at them and holding another light block, you can right click on them to increase their light value by 1, which is actually a pretty cool little mechanic. You can't replace them directly. Like I'm holding a light level 15, I can't replace that directly. I would have to break it and then place the light level 15. Now you can also get rid of these things in survival mode as well, simply by placing any block directly where the light block is. So keep that in mind. If you're building maps with these, you'll want to keep them up in the air, away from places that players would generally be placing blocks. Now I'm pretty sure there's another bug with these things where if they get blown up by a TNT or a creeper, they'll actually drop as an item, and it appears that that bug is still around. So keep that in mind yet again if you are planning on using these in your builds. Players might be able to acquire these simply by blowing them up. Of course, you can't really do much with them. It's basically just like an invisible torch, but, you know, still. Illegal blocks. If you like trying to find ways to break Bedrock Edition, you might be sad to hear that this one is now fixed. Previously, if you had a dispenser at world height, as you can see, this one's at world height, you could power this thing while it's full of shulker boxes, and those shulker boxes would get deleted instead of placed. But as you can see, this bug is fixed, and the shulker boxes simply remain inside of the dispenser. We have a pretty nice change to Magma Cubes that is going to help with our gold farms and help with our general mining Minecraft experiences. So Magma Cubes, the large variety, now require a 3 tall area to spawn. They will no longer spawn in these 2 tall areas. So previously, the large ones would spawn in 2 tall areas, and then they would either fall through the floor to a layer below if there was one, or they would simply glitch into the floor like this dude over here, and you would find these occasionally in the Nether. This bug has been around for absolutely forever, since like before the beginning of truly Bedrock even, and I believe it also affects the regular slimes in the overworld as well. So a really strange and interesting bug is now being removed from Bedrock Edition, and it's actually going to help our gold farms. They're not going to be wandering around the platforms, getting stuck, and reducing our spawn rates. A similar bug has also been fixed for the medium Magma Cube. Their hitbox previously was a little bit too small, but now it has been adjusted to be the correct size, so we shouldn't see any spawning issues with the medium ones either. Overall, this is going to allow for more possibilities with a variety of different nether-based farms, and you're not going to have to worry about so much glitchiness when it comes to the Magma Cubes. Oh yeah, of course it also makes the medium cubes easier to hit because they're gonna have a larger hitbox. So, I mean, that kind of goes without saying. Hit and hitbox? Yeah. They also fixed a little bug when it comes to skeletons. Previously, skeletons would not hold their bows with both hands like they do on Java Edition, but now, as you can see, they hold their bows with both hands. They're still not very good shots though, are they? Oh, I forgot I had another one of these. You gotta love betas when you're just trying to record a video and then you find another bug. I mean, look at this. I'm throwing them so good that they're going behind me. What even is this? I've never seen anything like this. So potion throwing in this beta is entirely wacky. So if we just churn quickly and then throw a potion, sometimes the potion will just get thrown to the side, kind of like we threw it as we were churning, but I'm pressing this like after I get done churning, and it's still happening sometimes, which is really strange. So in general, potions are kind of wacky. You may have experienced a pretty rare bug where you could place a boat and the boat would get teleported back to your hotbar basically, and then you could place infinite more boats. I've seen a couple of clips of people placing like dozens and dozens of boats with just a single boat from their hotbar, and basically it was a little bit of a duplication glitch for boats. Not entirely practical, but something that did exist on a Bedrock Edition. This bug has now been fixed in this beta. I just realized that means boats had yet another bug on a Bedrock Edition. That makes like 30 different boat bugs that we've had on Bedrock over the years. I mean, seriously, they're just boats. How are they so buggy? A bug I covered quite a while back in the 1.17 betas has now been fixed. You can now summon withers, etc. below Y0, so as you can see, that works fine. Of course, it also works fine for iron golems and for snow golems as well. So good news for all of you wanting to fight withers in 1.18. Moving on to beta 1.17.2023, this one also has some very important bug fixes and feature changes that you'll want to be aware of, such as changes to shulkers, spore blossoms, potion farming, horses, and of course end portals as well. Overall, lots of important stuff to be up to date on. Probably the most important bug fix in this update is that you'll no longer die of fall damage when going into an end portal. This would only happen if your end portal was above Y level 75, so only for custom end portals, but it's still something to be aware of for map makers, for creative mode players, and for anyone who builds end portals in their worlds. A long-awaited bug fix has also arrived in this beta. Pistons will now be able to instantly break moss and moss carpets. As you can see there, they will pop off as items, which is fantastic. This is going to allow for much simpler and easier moss farms. Anyway, as you can see, these sticky pistons will no longer be able to retract moss or moss carpets either, and this is all the intended behavior of moss that should have arrived with the original 1.17 update. So yes, I will be making a moss farm once we get these new features in the full release. Keep your eyes peeled, and if you want to see that tutorial on the channel, then of course be sure to subscribe. We have yet another change to powdered snow. Powdered snow above an undead mob will now prevent them from burning in the daylight. Of course, if we remove that, then they start burning instantly, which is big silly of them. So yeah, now you can use this to protect your undead mobs in the intended way. This also means that once we start getting the big piles of powdered snow on the mountains in 1.18, you might find yourself a lot of undead mobs in those piles during the daytime. So if you are falling into one of these, you might get attacked by various undead mobs. Of course, the zombies will die over time, but the skeletons will transform into strays, so you might have to fight a whole pocket of strays. And that is going to be a really interesting mechanic. There's been a small change to the Spore Blossom. Their hitbox will no longer be randomly offset to the side. Previously, this could be shifted to the side a little bit randomly, but now it will always be properly centered. The size and proportions of the hitbox are now also in parity with Java Edition. If you travel around your world with horses a lot, then you may have noticed that sometimes when you get off of the horse, it would completely disappear or end up somewhere else entirely different, kind of like rubber banding or whatever you want to call it. This bug has now been fixed, so whenever you dismount your horse, it will appear where it should. I know a lot of you have been bothered by this bug significantly recently, so rest assured, it is going to be fixed rather soon. They fixed the most recent popular exploit in this update as well. As you might know, dripstones dripping water into a cauldron can fill up those cauldrons of potions, and you can basically duplicate any kind of potion with a very simple array like this. It's not really that big of a dupe. I mean, it's just potions after all, but you can get infinite free potions using this, and it's not really that big of a deal. Anyway, that bug has now been fixed, and all versions of this bug have been removed. Speaking of exploits that we like, they removed a very, very nice one from the end cities, which is nerfing the amount of shulkers that you can get. There's been a bug around for absolutely ages where shulkers can double, triple, or even quintuple spawn. So you'll find an end city completely full of shulkers where there's 2 or even more shulkers on every single spot. It's a really, really nice thing, and it was especially nice when looting did not affect shulkers, but it's also been around for years, so it's about time that this bug was removed. There is absolutely no word on when shulker cloning is coming to Bedrock Edition, and rest assured, as soon as that thing is on its way, I'm going to be making a shulker farm, so keep your eyes peeled for that, and again, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. They've fixed some walking bugs for the amethyst shards and buds, etc. So as you can see, mobs can now walk over them just fine. Previously, they would be able to pathfind over them, but they would just stand completely still on them, unable to walk. So this bug is now resolved. However, there's still, of course, many other issues when it comes to pathfinding that have not been addressed. If this is a familiar sight to you, then you should be happy to hear that lightning will no longer randomly strike mobs that are underneath blocks or underground. I've had a surprising amount of reports from my patron server of people having underground wool farms, going away and then coming back just to find a little bit of fire, some cooked mutton, and some wool. And that is, of course, due to lightning striking mobs far underground. So you no longer need to worry about this bug as of these betas. As you can see, there are some very good changes in these betas, and there's even more good changes in the other betas that I'll be covering soon. So stay tuned, and yet again, if you haven't already, then consider subscribing. That way you don't miss future episodes of Bug Rock of the Week. Otherwise, I hope that you have enjoyed today's video and learned something new from it. If you have, then of course, consider leaving a like as well. It helps out the video and the channel a ton. I'll see you guys down in the comment section, and thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. And then there was silence.